welcome to My Stable Relationship, an equestrian performance podcast where we will deep dive into the mindset and management challenges of ourselves and of our peers. Our discussions will allow you to learn from experts, encourage you to set audacious goals, overcome challenges, and develop actionable plans. Ready? Let's do this. Hello everyone, and welcome back to My Stable Relationship. So before we get going, I have one announcement and one update for you. So firstly, the announcement. During July, I was giving away 25 free introductory coaching sessions, and I really loved meeting everyone who signed up and talking through your goals, setting action items, and seeing you really take some of those first steps. It's really what performance coaching is all about, and it was so fabulous to see you taking advantage of that opportunity. And the feedback that I had on those was really positive, and it was that you wanted more. But I've actually come up with a bit of a compromise for you. So it's not coaching as such, but it is an opportunity to speak with me before we book any ongoing coaching. So I'm going to set up what is called discovery calls. And these are going to be for you if you have ever wondered how performance coaching, sports psychology, life coaching, NLP could help you reach your goals. Or I'm also an equestrian coach, so if classical dressage could be the path to help you rehabilitate or train your horse. So if you've ever wondered if performance coaching is for you, or if equestrian or classical dressage could help your horse. If so, then book in a discovery call with me and think of it as like a meet and greet. It's an opportunity for us to discuss your current circumstances, answer any questions you might have, and for you to decide whether performance or equestrian coaching with me is right for you. And again, you can book a discovery call onto my calendar as of now. The link will be in the show notes or through one of the link trees on my Instagram profile. But you go to Calendly/Journey of Equine, CALENDLY/Journey of Equine. But I will put the link in the show notes. And for this week's learning, I really wanted to speak to you about just a really lovely interaction that I had with another horsey professional the other week. So at the moment, I'm thinking about doing either my master's or my PhD in equine science. For those who know me, and I've told you before, I spent the last year and a bit thinking that I was going back into a doctor of veterinary medicine. But after working at a surgery and helping out for a year, I decided that wasn't quite the pathway I was searching for, and that I wanted to go down more of a tailored research pathway. And I actually qualify for either a master's or a PhD because I've done a few other degrees before and I've done a short thesis before. So I wanted to know about what it would be like doing my PhD or my master's in equine science in Australia. I kind of had a topic in mind, which was the long-term impacts of kissing spine surgery, but I really wanted to hear about other topics available. I wanted to see where the research groups were, and I wanted to hear from people in Australia who were doing similar types of research. So the current town that I'm in has two big universities, but neither of them focus on animal science. So the closest university for me to do this type of research would be about 3 to 3.5 hours drive away. And by that point, I may as well focus my attention on going anywhere in Australia. So I've been reaching out to lots of people, trying to learn what it's like, where the facilities are, and where I could take my next step. And I thought I had really done lots of research already and reached out to a lot of people. But then the other day, one of my friends shared a post from another horse professional on social media. And I just clicked on their profile by chance. And I realized that they were also studying a PhD currently in equine functional anatomy in Australia. But I also realized that I didn't know where or with who. I was desperate to find out. I was super excited because this for me could have been another link in the chain or another opportunity coming my way. I was brave enough to send a random cold email to see if they would be willing to take some time to share their experience with me. And they were. And consequently, I have now learned about two other research groups that I didn't know about. And one of them is focused on racing, which is totally up my alley because I specialize in off-the-track thoroughbreds, both retraining and rehabilitation. So the reminder for us this week is kind of twofold. Number one is just just do it. Just reach out, just give it a go, just ask the question. People can only say no, but make sure that you don't self reject. Like we talked about in a previous episode, that kind of applies here too. I want you to let your curiosity be free and just approach people and give it a try. And number two, some people are so kind and generous in sharing and offering information. If you just put yourself out there a little bit and ask, you never know what you might get back. And even better with my example, it turns out after we had a bit of a chat that we have really similar values and really similar reflections on the horse industry in Australia. And based on that, I've invited them to be a guest on the podcast over the next few months as we start getting our first guests on. So it was a super cool interaction. And I just encourage you to reach out. You never know what might come of it. So this week's topic is a really fundamental discussion that I have had to go through and learn, and that most of my clients have had to as well. It's about whether or not you are running from your circumstances. But first, let's just do a refresher on what circumstances are and how your circumstances relate to your thoughts or your feelings. Circumstances are things that happen in the world around us. They are the things that we don't have direct control over from our current position. They are facts that could be proven true in a court of law. So a circumstance might be something like, the mug on my desk right now is blue. My horse is 16 one hands high. My horse is a registered thoroughbred. Or even something like a situation, like my horse kicked my horse trailer and now the trailer has a dent in it that I could probably prove in a court of law. The interesting thing about circumstances is that they are also neutral. They don't mean anything until you assign them the meaning. So it is the thought that you associate with them that makes them either good or bad. And there's obviously a whole spectrum of emotions or feelings or thoughts that you could assign to it, but you kind of get the point when I say good or bad. Let's do a refresher on the whole chain that we talked about in, I think it was episode 3, talking about where you are responsible for your own results. And what we talked about was that a circumstance occurs and it's neutral, it's a fact, it's out of your control, proven in a court of law, a circumstance happens. The next thing that happens is that you have a thought about that circumstance, good or bad, and a range in between. You have a thought about the circumstance. The thought that you're having defines the feeling in your body. So your thought will create your feeling, and whatever you're thinking and feeling will drive your action or your inaction. So sometimes we don't take action, sometimes we do. And both of those states are driven by the thought or the feeling that we're having. And lastly is the result. And the result comes from the action that we take. So we need to be really careful about how we assign meaning to our circumstances, what thoughts and feelings we choose, because that impacts our actions and our results. If we go back to that trailer example I was just talking about, my horse kicked my horse trailer and now the trailer is dented, is the circumstance. So the thought, two different people could consider it totally different ways. So one might consider it a total disaster. They might be really upset that their trailer has been dented. They might feel really sad about it, really down about it. They might not have the money to fix it. Or maybe the other one thinks it's not a problem at all. Maybe they were replacing the trailer anyway. Maybe they didn't like that trailer. Maybe they don't mind having a dent in it. The thoughts are totally different. And based on that, their feelings will be different. Based on that, their actions will be different. Keeping on that float example, Joe, my horse with kissing spines, fused hocks, ECVM, and he's neurological as well. He was the most fabulous horse in the world to float in his younger years. You would put him on the horse box or the trailer, the float. We call it the float in Australia, but the horse box. We put him on the horse box and you would not hear a peep out of him until you arrived at your destination. I could drive him around Australia for hours and hours and you would not even know that he was there. But as he got to be more in pain from his spine, his hocks were struggling a little bit on the float, on the angle, I can only assume that the neurologic issues were causing him some trouble with his balance as well. As that all started to pile on as he grew older and he was degrading, he started to kick the horse box. So, old me, viewing that circumstance, would have been really angry. I would have thought that he was naughty. I would have thought that he was damaging my horse box or my float. And I would have thought that this was an absolute disaster. Current me sees the horse box, the float, as expendable and not mattering as much as my horse's health does. So I am way calmer about any possible damage he might do to the float. It doesn't mean that I don't wish the float wouldn't get damaged. It just means that I don't include anger in my response to the circumstance anymore. And that for me is a thought that I choose. So your circumstances are neutral, a fact. They mean nothing until you assign a meaning, and they can be proven true in a court of law. You have a choice. You assign a thought to your circumstances. From that thought, you create your feeling, which drives your action, which creates your results. And this little refresher of circumstances links directly back into our topic of today, and it will hopefully help you just a little bit better understand what I'm saying about this topic. So, the topic is, are you running away from your circumstances? And I want to talk about what I actually mean by running away from your circumstances. So, occasionally, you will be faced with a circumstance where instead of dealing with the associated thoughts and feelings that you have, you attempt to change the circumstance. And the really bad news is, like we said before, a circumstance is never really truly in your control. So the ways that you might attempt to change it are by ignoring it or hoping it would go away, by blaming, or by running away from it. So let's just run through a few examples so you can see what I mean by running away from a circumstance. So stick with me here. Before I give you these examples, I want to give you a caveat. I want to tell you that you might not be running away from your circumstances, or you might be. So the same circumstance for two different people could be that one is running away and one person isn't. And I don't want you to immediately put your guard up and try to justify why you do these things and why you absolutely are not running away from your circumstance. I just want you to listen. And later on, we will talk about how to know if you are running away or not. And it could be that some of these examples apply to you that I'm going to talk through, but you are not running away. And that's excellent. And that is fine as long as you are 100% sure and you know it. But some of you, these examples will resonate on you and you will know that you were running away. So, some examples of running away from circumstances that I see or that I have seen recently, I'm going to go through 4. Number 1 is a move to a different city. So, this could be something like perhaps you feel it's not working out in your current city. You can't find a job, a partner, the house of your dreams, the boarding barn of your dreams. It's not exciting enough. The nightlife isn't good, whatever. So you move. But it turns into a pattern. And it's a pattern that every few years you up and move to a different place. Your thoughts each time are that you can't find a job, a partner, the house of your dreams, the boarding barn that you wanted. It's not exciting enough. The nightlife isn't good, right? The thought is there for every city. And each time you up and move to a different place. Just think about it. The next example is changing jobs. So lots of people will change jobs, and the reason will be their boss is being difficult. They don't like the work. It's boring. They've done it too long. They need a change. They should change every 3 years, whatever. They change jobs. In 2 to 3 years' time, they come back to me, and I guarantee you that they will say to me, boss is difficult, don't like the work, sick of the work, bored of the work, looking for a change. People should change every 2 to 3 years, and off we go again. And I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I just want you to understand that there is a step here where we need to assess if you are running away or not. And we will get to that, but stick with me. Third example is at the barn. So I was talking to someone the other day, And they were saying that they keep getting into arguments all the time at the barns that they're at. And they keep having to move barn over and over, but they just can't find a barn with nice people. And that is a really interesting pattern. And it could be that we need to do some assessment there about why that person is running from the circumstance time and time again and where the problem is actually coming from. Fourth example, and this is a really applicable one to me. This is what I am very prone to doing when I run away from my circumstances, and it's about buying new horses. So some people do it that they will, let's say they'll buy a horse, and the circumstance is that the horse is showing some behavioral issues. So they manage to sell it, they buy another horse. The circumstance is that it starts to show some behavioral issues, and a pattern starts to form. And instead of addressing the behavioral issues, they sell it on and they buy a new one. This is where I was prone to doing this back in my competition days when I was really aggressively competitive. What I would do was I would buy a new horse. For a couple of months, I'd be absolutely in love with this horse, no worries at all. And then it would start to do things like drop a rail or refuse at a jump, the normal things, the normal teething issues through our training. But my solution was get another horse, get a different one, get a better one, get one that jumps higher, get one that gallops faster, get one that's hotter, that will be so hot that it will jump the jump no matter what, because it will be blindly racing at the jump. That was my solution. And so I'd buy another one. And let me tell you, I have a paddock full of them. I have a paddock full of them because I was never able to sell them on afterwards. And my solution was always buy another one. And it's an interesting pattern, right? Was I dealing with my circumstances? Was I facing my thoughts and feelings? Or was I running away from my circumstance? Interesting, hey? And I am sure that you can think of instances in your life where you may have a gut feel that you are running away from your circumstance and that you are picking perhaps an easy option, perhaps the quieter option, perhaps the quicker option, whatever you think it might be. I bet you can think of some point or other in your life where you have done something similar. And look, there are some upsides to running away. And I want to caveat this first. If the circumstance is dangerous, is toxic, is impacting your mental health in a significant way, or your physical health in a significant way, I need you to leave ASAP. So I am not saying stay no matter what. I am saying that for most day-to-day or life circumstances, we can do some analysis first. But if it's dangerous, toxic, impacting you physically or mentally, I need you to leave. Besides that, the upsides to running away, there are two big ones. There is a temporary sense of comfort and there is an excitement aspect. So the temporary sense of comfort is that we have escaped. We saw a circumstance in front of us. We didn't like it. We escaped. We've gotten away and we've left that circumstance behind that we perceived as negative or not working or causing the issue, which is a relief, right? And then the second is that excitement. It's like a little temporary bit of dopamine where our brain says, this is so great because something new and fresh is coming. And our brains love that. But again, it's really short lived. And on top of that, once we get through the upsides of running away, which are very short lived, then we face the downside, which is we believe that if we get ourselves as far away as possible, our problems won't follow us. It's like our brains want us to outrun our problems or our circumstances and leave them in the dust so that we can finally start living again. But unfortunately, running away from your problems or your circumstances is a race that you will never win because you take the same brain with you. You take your thoughts and feelings with you. So what you're actually escaping is your thoughts and feelings about the circumstance. Because remember, the circumstance is neutral. We assign it meaning through our thoughts and feelings. We have created the fact that we don't like this circumstance. And unfortunately, your thoughts and feelings are the only things that will come with you to the new circumstance, that will come with you if you move cities, that will come with you to a new job, to a new barn that will be placed onto the new horse and the expectations of that new horse once you've bought it. They follow you. Things will never change until we deal with the internal, the fuel, the thoughts, the feelings that create this pattern. And the problem with escaping or running away is that you truly rob yourself of the opportunity to learn to deal with difficult situations or emotions. You rob yourself of the option to fully evaluate the situation and see if you can still make it line up with your goals. And it really shows that you are afraid, consciously or unconsciously, of confronting your own feelings and sitting in that discomfort. But how do we know that we are running away or that we are or are not making a reasonable choice? Like I said before, when we talk about the job, the city move, the barn swap, or the horse selling, buying examples, it's not that you can't do these things. These are normal, people do them all the time. It's that two people can face those exact circumstances and one will be running away, whereas one won't be. And it will all depend on the thoughts and feelings behind the reason for the swap or the running or the escaping. So I've got a few actionable takeaways for you today, and it's just the starting point. A few options just to try and work out if you are running away from a certain circumstance or not. So I just want you to pick one that resonates with you the most, give it a go, and see if you can start to get more of a feel about whether or not you are running away from a circumstance or if you are making a reasonable change and a measured change in your life. So, takeaway number one, option number one, is to narrow to one circumstance, one thing that you'd like to run away from currently or that's causing you an issue currently. And I just want you to stop, pause, and resist the urge to run away straight away. I just want you to sit with the discomfort long enough that the initial urge to run away or change the circumstance is gone. Because once we get rid of that initial anxiety, that initial panic about the circumstance, we're often able to think more clearly about it. We just have to get past it first. So once you've gotten past it, and it could take a couple of minutes, it could take a couple of days, a couple of weeks, it's different for everyone depending on the circumstance. Then I want you to think about whether you're able to deal with the circumstance or not. So we are really just creating enough space for you to pause and then think properly about how to respond. Because a decision made in panic and in a rush nearly never helps anyone. Option number two, to work out whether or not you're running away from your circumstance, is again with that one circumstance, I want you to find one problem within the circumstance that you can solve. So, if you were able to deal with just one tiny part of it, perhaps that would help you get a little bit around this circumstance. I want you to ask yourself, would that put you back on track towards your goal? And if it would, then changing the circumstance means that you are escaping, you are running away. If you got around this circumstance and you still wouldn't be on track towards your goal, then okay, it might actually be time to find a new path. So, as an example for that one, when I was talking about the horse purchasing before, what if, let's say, you were buying and selling, but perhaps to deal with those behavioral issues, the one small thing you could do is find a local instructor who gives horsemanship lessons and deals with, let's say, horses with behavioral issues. And you just booked one session, one step to break that cycle of circumstance and run, circumstance and run. And then the question is if you would be back on track towards your goal or not. And perhaps if you could resolve the behavioral issues of that horse that you had at that time, you wouldn't consider selling them and you would now be able to reach your horse goals. In which case, you've broken that cycle of having to escape or run away from your circumstance. And if you're able to reach that goal, great, keep the horse. If not, and let's say you want to jump to Grand Prix and they're not going to reach Grand Prix, then okay, it's fine to sell them on. But then at least you've given the circumstance a chance at proper analysis by narrowing down to just one problem, one step that you can take to resolve it. And then number three, another option that you could take to see if you're running away from your circumstances or not is to do some backwards analysis or some journaling of times that you may have run away from circumstances in the past. So, what we're really looking to do here is learn something about your habits. So, I want you to pick 3 changes that you've made recently. And I just want you to take a blank page and I want you to brain dump all of your thoughts and feelings about them. And then flip the page over and I want you to brain dump all the actions that you took for each of those 3 circumstances and what the overall result was. Are you happy with it? Are you pleased with it? Are you saddened by it? Did you not get what you wanted? Did you not meet your goal? Did you meet your goal? Anything that you can think of. Just give yourself 10 to 15 minutes and dump it onto the page. And from that, you should be able to draw out some really common threads to discover perhaps what your go-to ways of running away are. So some people have go-to ways of escaping. You could also discover what kinds of situations trigger you to want to escape, and then how you might deal with this urge to run away in future. And with those 3 options, I've given you quite a lot to think about. And I'd also like to tell you that this is just the start. It's very hard to nail down this problem, work out exactly your triggering thoughts and feelings, work out your mode of operation or how you like to escape, anything like that, by yourself. And it's really hard to do just with one circumstance. It really needs to be a pattern analysis over time. So if you think this resonated with you at all, or if it's something that you'd like help with in future, I just encourage you to sign up for those new discovery calls that I talked about at the start of the episode. My calendar is in the show notes. You can link directly to it and book directly onto my calendar. And let's just have a meet and greet chat about what you're seeing, what your trends that you're finding are, and how we could possibly help you with performance coaching into the future. And in summary, running away from your circumstances is a race that you will never win because your same brain is coming with you. Rather, we need to be more conscious about the types of thoughts and feelings that we let drive our actions. From there, we can make more informed decisions. We all know that our mindset impacts our horse training. Our horses pick up on our emotions and feelings so easily. My goal with this podcast is to use this type of mindset and management work to help you more effectively rehabilitate or train your horse. We will balance your life inside and outside of the arena so that you can find your version of a stable relationship. And with that, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in today. Please subscribe to the podcast on whichever platform you're using so that you don't miss any of the future episodes. And you can also follow along on the socials at Journey of Equine. The links are in the show notes. Have a wonderful week, everyone, and I will speak to you soon. Thank you so much for listening. My goal is to help you more effectively train or rehabilitate your horse by focusing on your mindset and management, both inside and outside of the arena. If this sounds like something you'd like one-on-one help with, or if you'd like to follow along for more, come and join me on Instagram or Facebook at Journey of Equine. The links will be in the show notes. Have a great week, everyone.